Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dive Into Diet. I'm with the star of the show, Lucas Schmidt. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am super fired up about today's episode.
Ooh.
Because it kind of, we talk a lot about supplements on this show, on Explain This, on the Performance Medicine Show, our Q&A show. Today, we're going to talk about some foods that you can get your vitamins from that might replace your supplement. So we're kind of going, instead of, talking about a supplement you can add, thinking about maybe a supplement you can take off in replacement of food. Is that kind of where we're going?
Yeah, and it's not to say that you should never take supplements or anything like that. It's just some people like to know, well, how do I get that in my diet? How do I get that without having to go buy a pill bottle and popping that every day? How do I get it in its maybe natural state? So we're going to talk about two vitamins that everybody's probably heard of today. Vitamin B and vitamin A. Okay, vitamin B encompasses a lot of B vitamins. It's a category of vitamins. So I'm not going to isolate one in particular because a lot of the time the natural sources contain amounts of all or most of the vitamin Bs. 1, 2, 3. They also have different names, riboflavin, B12. So you've got numbers and names, niacin. These are all versions of vitamin B.
So can we also teach me and the people watching and listening how to read labels too? So we know, okay, you need this amount of vitamin B.
Yeah, well, something that an established system for that, we could actually do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
We might do that. Pin for later when I'm...
Pin that.
Yeah. That would take a while, but there's what's called the daily value system. You've probably seen that. It's if you read a nutrient label, it'll say this is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. And then you have a daily value, a DV, it'll say next to it. And that's why if you look at a nutrient label, it'll be in percentages. It'll say vitamin D, 100%, vitamin C, 75%, things like that. That's the percentage of your daily value requirement.
Okay.
I'm actually a little skeptical of the daily value requirement because it's based on the average of lots of people.
Right.
Which means it's not specific. It can't be specific to people. We're all different. Averages are useful, don't get me wrong. It's just not everybody eats just 2,000 calories a day.
Right.
Not everybody eats that much or that little, depending on your perspective, what you're doing, how active you are. So I guess it's semi-useful, the daily value chart, but how useful is it for a very individualized approach? I'm not sure. I'll look into it more and see. Maybe there's a new system I'm unaware of that's maybe better, more personalized. That would be a great thing to explore. But what I'm going to do is it's going to be fairly general because most of the time I think people just want to know, if I eat this, am I getting some of this vitamin? And if this is where we'll say the answer is yes. If you eat one of these things, you should get adequate amounts. Now, another caveat before we list these foods, these aren't the only foods that contain. I'm going to start with vitamin B. These aren't the only foods that contain vitamin B. Okay. There are actually a lot of foods that contain minuscule amounts or I guess moderate amounts. These are the ones I could find that are known for containing sizable amounts of the vitamin. 100% daily value or 50 or above % daily value, something like that. So they're not necessarily ranked, meaning the first one I list has the most and the last one I list has the least. We can discuss them on an individual level to an extent. One of them I thought was a cool surprise, and it's the last one I'm going to list.
So are these replacements for vitamin B in general? Or are we going one by one with the B vitamins?
Vitamin B we'll go general, because otherwise it would take it would take several episodes just for each B vitamin, because there's a lot of B vitamins.
Well, when people are taking vitamin B, they're most of them are taking B12?
B12 is the most common.
Okay.
Yeah. It's associated with high energy.
Okay.
Or energy in general. Generally, vitamin B is for energy maintenance and blood cell development, like making red blood cells.
Okay.
Pretty important.
Yeah.
You kind of need that.
We need it.
So let's list them. I've got, how many do I got here? I got 8, okay?
8 foods?
8 foods I'm going to list.
All right,
some of them are sort of category, but mostly just food. So we got liver.
Okay.
Yum. But beef liver is really high in vitamin B. Red meat, as in beef, is also high in vitamin B. A plethora of them. Fish, tuna or salmon, or mackerel, small fish, oily fish contain lots of vitamin B. Avocado, yay, a plant. Contains vitamin B. Eggs, the yolk particularly. The white's not going to give you those vitamins. It's the yolk. The
Okay.
white is pure protein.
Okay.
You're not really getting anything else but protein from an egg white. So you need to eat the yolk. Don't waste it. Nori seaweed. It's that crunchy, dark seaweed. I think they use it to make sushi. I don't like sushi, but nori contains some vitamin B. Chicken, poultry contains vitamin B. The surprising one, Swiss cheese, feta cheese, or Gruyere cheese contain a good amount of vitamin B.
That's interesting.
I think in theory, it has something to do with the altitude with which the animal lives. I didn't go too far
Does that
into
mean
it.
dairy has vitamin B?
Some, yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Yep.
Cool.
So those are the foods. One thing in the research when I was looking into this, if you're in like a low carb or ketogenic style diet, those diets are known for you flush out a lot. A lot of urination happens when you switch to low carb because insulin doesn't just govern blood sugar. It works with some other aspects of your body. One of those is fluid retention. So that's why when somebody switches to a keto, they might complain of constantly having to pee. And that's why the weight drop is so sudden in the first 2 weeks. It's because they're losing a lot of water weight.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so if you're in a diet like that, you might consider eating a higher amount of these foods, most, if not all of which, happen to be low-carb friendly. None of these have a lot of carbs. Avocado doesn't have hardly any carbohydrates in it. So that's just a coincidence. That's not me saying keto is the only way. That's just happens to be the sources of B vitamins or fatty foods. And so you might consider eating more of those to compensate because it's a water-soluble vitamin. So if you're peeing a lot and if you're flushing a lot, you're going to lose some of those water-soluble vitamins. You could add 25% more or 50% more approximately. It's really hard to OD on water-soluble vitamins too. It's nice. So it's not like if you take a high dose, you're going to get toxic or anything.
That's a good little tip there, especially for those who are going on a keto or a low carb.
Yeah, you might consider that might be an instance where if you're eating some of these foods, but you're concerned, or your doctor's saying you're still low in vitamin B, that might be where we supplement with vitamin B in addition.
Got it.
Because we're flushing it out at a rate with.
Is that a detox
rate.
thing too? Like, is that a part of like the detox process if you're going on low carb? Like
That I don't know. If you mean by detox, like
getting rid of all the bad stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I did a ketogenic diet, it would be to recover from, I guess, eating like junk food and too much sugar and just a habitual lifestyle of processed carbs and high blood sugar constantly. I think of the ketogenic diet as a therapeutic diet for people who would like to naturally lower their insulin resistance, so type 2 diabetes particularly, or pre-diabetes, to reverse that without having to use drugs.
Yep.
Or some doctors use it to treat epilepsy. It's because the brain doesn't. Sometimes people with epilepsy, the reason they have seizures, and I'm way using layman's terms here, is because their brain doesn't process glucose properly, and so it sort of short circuits because there's not the proper fuel, and so you have a seizure. They discovered that people who ate only fat and no carbs, their body used ketones as fuel, and the brain was able to use those, and so it didn't short circuit and cause the seizure. It's not a cure for epilepsy for everybody. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not telling you, you got epilepsy, it's all you got to do. Eat avocado only. But it is an experimental therapy that's been used since the 1920s.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah. So that was a little tangent there, but vitamin B, those are your big sources. There's some others out there, I'm sure, but those are the big ones that stuck out to me. So,
All right, so what's the next one here?
Vitamin A.
Vitamin A, okay.
What do you think vitamin A is for?
Well,
Test. I didn't tell him I was going to ask
know.
him. On the spot.
I would say, because I know vitamin A and I associate that with carrots, I'd say for eyesight.
Sure, yeah. Eye health is important.
Eye health?
Vision maintenance. I made notes, so I have an advantage.
But that's about it. Yeah.
That's not it. Most vitamins have multiple purposes. They don't just do one thing.
That's what I think. Like, what comes to mind?
Eye health and membrane health in the eyes is one of them. Immune system, organ function generally. Almost every organ utilizes bits of it in certain processes. That's the main meat of what vitamin A is for.
Okay.
It's a fat-soluble vitamin. So wait. Yes, I believe it's a fat soluble. Because I made a note next to one of the sources to not to eat too much because you can become toxic. You can have toxic levels.
Really?
Fat-soluble vitamins can become toxic in your body because they don't flush out like water-soluble vitamins. So, you want me to list the foods?
Let's go.
All right,
Let's do it.
number 1 is not a surprise. Well, this actually does contain the most. I will say this one, how absorbable, I don't know, but sweet potato is technically, on paper, contains the highest levels of beta-carotene, which is the plant form of vitamin A.
It makes sense because it's orange.
Correct.
Yep.
It's a pigment.
Yep.
So the plant form of vitamin A is pigmented orange or red. It's red shades of red and orange. Okay. The next, and these two are in order. The other ones are just other sources. Beef liver. Beef liver, man, it's full of vitamins. Beef liver contains a lot of vitamin A. In fact, and it's not plant form. So here's a note about vitamin A. If the vitamin A is coming in the form of like sweet potato or other plant sources, which I'll list in a second, that's in the form of beta-carotene, which is the plant form. It's an antioxidant that is converted to vitamin A, meaning if your body has too much, it simply won't convert anymore, so you won't become toxic on plant forms. So if you ate a bunch of carrots, you're not going to get sick because your body's going to say, I don't need any more vitamin A, so I'm just not going to convert beta-carotene. I'll just flush it out. So it's sort of an interesting
That's a nice
protection.
little function.
Yeah. You're not going to Beef liver vitamin A is ready to absorb, which is good, but it's also bad if you're eating beef liver every single day in massive quantities because you can get sick. It's so much vitamin A and it's so ready to absorb that you can become vitamin A toxic, which is very dangerous if you eat too much beef liver. In fact, most people who are well versed in the consumption of beef liver for health would say eat it once a week.
Interesting.
To avoid toxic levels of vitamin A.
Huh.
That's how rich it is in bioavailable vitamin A.
Do people mostly supplement with beef liver for the vitamin A, or
No, I think they supplement with beef liver just for the whole
gamut?
The whole spectrum that it has in it. I just can't bring myself to eat it.
I was going to ask you if you do it.
No.
Okay, that's actually surprising.
I know. Normally I can stomach down. I'm sure I'll break down one day and try it. One of the Carter here at the office, she takes a little bit raw.
I've never tried it. I've never tried it.
Carter and Katie, I think, both do it.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yep.
They're tough. I think they use orange juice to wash it down so they don't have to taste it. It's pretty clever.
Yeah.
The next is carrots. Shocker. Orange. Beta-carotene, so you're not going to OD on it. Now, I've heard tale that if you drink carrot juice too often, you'll have some yellowing that occurs in the skin or oranging that occurs. I've heard people complain of that. That could be an old wives' tale. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it makes sense. It's a pigment, very, very strong pigment. Apricots.
Makes sense.
Particularly dried or concentrated. A lot of sugar in dried apricots, but boy, are they delicious.
They are so good.
Cantaloupe, also orange.
Also delicious.
Red bell peppers. Keep in mind, bell peppers are a nightshade. So if you have an intolerance or you've been told you're allergic to nightshades, which would be tomatoes, eggplants, bell peppers, hot peppers, white potatoes, they're all in the same family. If you have an intolerance, avoid that plant. Bell pepper red is my favorite, though, flavor-wise. And red grapefruit, and then pistachios.
Pistachios have vitamin A.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that. I eat a lot of pistachios.
I love pistachios.
I love
smoky.
Oh.
Smoky. Very delicious. That's about it. Now, this is actually going to plug another episode of the podcast. With grapefruit, you should always inform your doctor you're going to be eating grapefruit. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah.
If you're taking medications, you don't have to tell them if you're not. If you're not taking any drugs, don't worry about it. If you're taking medications, you need to inform your doctor, can I have grapefruit? I know that sounds random. Preview for the next one of the next episodes of the podcast. Teaser. I'll tell you why. But those are the food sources, the main ones that I have found for adequate levels of vitamin A.
So just to recap here, guys, these are supplements that we can, or foods that can replace some of our supplements.
Yeah, if you're like, I want to save some money, typically foods are cheaper than supplements. Yep. You could try these foods and see if you maintain adequate levels.
And this is vitamin B.
And B vitamins and vitamin A are the two.
Rock on, man.
Yeah.
Is that a show?
That's a show.
That's a show. Guys, that's a show. Dive into diet. We will be back next time. Stay tuned for the teaser we just teased.
Get your vitamin A so you can see our next episode.
See you guys.
Don't go away.